Have you ever noticed how some people seem perfectly happy spending an entire weekend alone? No parties, no crowded restaurants, no constant notifications, just silence. And strangely, they don't seem lonely. In fact, they often seem calmer than everyone else. Society has a story it loves to tell. It tells us that happiness looks social. A full calendar, a busy phone, plans every weekend, people everywhere. And if you enjoy being alone too much, something must be wrong. Maybe you're antisocial. Maybe you're missing out. Maybe you're hiding from life. But psychology keeps discovering something uncomfortable. Some of the most emotionally stable people spend a surprising amount of time alone. Not because nobody wants them around. Because solitude gives them something the outside world cannot. And once you understand why, you may never look at loneliness and solitude the same way again. The first thing most people misunderstand is that being alone and feeling lonely are not the same thing. Loneliness is painful. Solitude is chosen. One feels like something is missing. The other feels like finally coming home. Researchers have found that people who enjoy solitude often experience lower levels of emotional exhaustion. Not because their lives are easier, but because they regularly give their minds a chance to recover. Think about modern life for a moment. Every day your brain is processing conversations, notifications, expectations, opinions, headlines, messages, and endless stimulation. Even when you're relaxing, you're rarely alone with your own thoughts. There is always another screen, another update, another voice demanding attention. And for some people, this constant stimulation slowly becomes exhausting. What looks like a desire to stay home is often something deeper. Their nervous system is asking for silence. Psychologists sometimes describe this through something called optimal stimulation theory. The idea is surprisingly simple. Not everybody needs the same amount of stimulation to feel good. Some people thrive in busy environments. Others become overwhelmed by them. One person walks into a crowded party and feels energized. Another walks into the exact same room and feels mentally drained within an hour. Neither person is wrong. Their brains are simply wired differently. This is why some people genuinely look forward to canceling plans. Not because they dislike people. Not because they're lazy. Because their mind knows something their friends often don't. Rest is waiting at home. And home offers something increasingly rare in today's world. Control. Outside, life is unpredictable. The noise changes. The people change. The expectations change. Something can always go wrong. But at home, everything becomes more manageable. The lighting is familiar. The sounds are familiar. The environment is familiar. And the brain loves familiarity. Because familiarity feels safe. Many people spend their entire lives searching for peace without realizing that peace often feels boring from the outside. It doesn't always look exciting. It doesn't always create great photographs. It doesn't always produce stories worth posting online. Sometimes peace looks like sitting quietly with a cup of coffee while the world rushes past your window. And for certain personalities, that moment feels richer than an entire night out. But this raises an interesting question. If solitude feels so good, why does society often treat it like a problem? Why do people become uncomfortable when someone genuinely enjoys being alone? The answer reveals something fascinating about human psychology. And it has less to do with introverts than most people think. The truth is, most people don't actually fear being alone. They fear what being alone might force them to see. When the noise disappears, something interesting happens. You can no longer distract yourself from your own thoughts. There are no conversations to hide inside. No notifications to check. No endless stream of content pulling your attention somewhere else. Just you. And for many people, that's uncomfortable. Because solitude acts like a mirror. It reflects back everything you've been avoiding. Your fears. Your regrets. Your unanswered questions. This is one reason so many people stay busy. Not because they love being busy. Because silence can feel louder than noise. But people who genuinely enjoy being alone develop a different relationship with that silence. Instead of running from it, they learn how to listen to it. And over time, something remarkable begins to happen. They become more self-aware. Research consistently shows that periods of solitude increase self-reflection. When you're constantly surrounded by other people, your attention naturally moves outward. You think about what others expect, how others see you, what others want from you. But solitude pulls your attention inward. And that's where real self-understanding begins. You start noticing patterns. Why certain situations upset you. Why certain people drain your energy. Why some goals matter and others don't. Many people spend years searching for themselves. People who embrace solitude often spend that time actually meeting themselves. And that's where another misunderstanding appears. People often assume that solitude makes someone disconnected from the world. But in many cases, the opposite is true. Some of the most creative ideas in human history were born in solitude. Writers, artists, inventors, scientists. Again and again, breakthroughs emerge not from constant social interaction, but from quiet moments of reflection. Because creativity needs space. The brain cannot hear its own ideas when it is constantly processing everyone else's. Think about your own life. When do your deepest thoughts usually appear? Not during a crowded conversation. Not while scrolling endlessly. Usually when you're alone, taking a walk, lying awake at night, staring out a window. The moments society labels as unproductive often become the moments where the mind does its most important work. And yet, there is something important we need to talk about. Because not all solitude is healthy. There is a line, a very thin line, and many people don't realize they've crossed it. Healthy solitude gives you energy. Unhealthy isolation takes it away. Healthy solitude feels peaceful. Isolation feels heavy. Healthy solitude helps you reconnect with life. Isolation slowly disconnects you from it. The difference isn't whether you're alone. The difference is what happens to you while you're alone. Do you feel restored? Or do you feel trapped? Because home can be two very different things. For some people, it's a sanctuary. For others, it becomes a hiding place. Psychologists often notice this distinction in people struggling with anxiety or depression. At first, staying home feels comforting, safe, predictable, but over time, avoidance can quietly grow. And before they realize it, they're no longer choosing solitude. They're avoiding discomfort, avoiding uncertainty, avoiding life itself. That's why the healthiest people who enjoy being alone continue to stay connected to the world. They can go out when they want to. They can socialize when necessary. They simply don't depend on constant stimulation to feel complete. And that might be the most important difference of all. Because true peace isn't needing people all the time, but it's also not needing to escape from them. It's having the freedom to choose. To enjoy company when it adds value. And enjoy solitude when it restores your soul. The people who master this balance discover something most of us spend years chasing. They realize happiness isn't found in a crowded room. And it isn't found in complete isolation either. It's found in knowing yourself well enough to understand what you genuinely need. And sometimes, what you genuinely need is a quiet room, a slow evening, and the rare feeling that, for a little while, nothing is demanding your attention except your own life. There is one final reason some people love being alone. And it has nothing to do with introversion. Nothing to do with social skills. And nothing to do with being shy. It has to do with depth. Some people spend their entire lives collecting experiences. Others spend their lives understanding them. And those are very different things. The modern world rewards visibility. The louder voice. The faster response. The person who is always present. Always available. Always performing. But people who enjoy solitude often discover something unusual. The most important parts of life happen internally. A conversation that changes how you see yourself. A realization that arrives after months of confusion. A quiet moment where you finally understand what you truly want. None of these moments are visible. Nobody applauds them. Nobody clicks like. But they change everything. This is why many people who enjoy being alone seem strangely comfortable with themselves. Not perfect. Not fearless. Not always happy. Just comfortable. Because they spend time building a relationship most people neglect. The relationship with themselves. And that relationship becomes incredibly valuable during difficult times. When life falls apart. When relationships end. When plans fail. When expectations collapse. People who have learned how to sit alone with themselves often have somewhere to return. Their peace doesn't completely depend on external validation. Their identity isn't built entirely on being needed by others. Because they learned something powerful. Being alone doesn't automatically mean being lonely. In fact, sometimes the loneliest people are surrounded by others. And sometimes the most peaceful people are sitting quietly by themselves. But here's the part nobody talks about. The goal isn't to become someone who never needs people. Human beings are connection-driven creatures. We all need love. We all need belonging. We all need meaningful relationships. The goal is something much healthier. To enjoy connection without depending on it for your entire sense of worth. To appreciate people without losing yourself inside them. To be able to walk into a crowded room without needing approval. And walk back into an empty room without feeling abandoned. Because real emotional freedom looks like both. Connection and solitude. Community and independence. Noise and silence. The healthiest people know when to embrace each one. Maybe that's why some people choose to stay home on a Friday night. Not because they have nowhere else to be. But because they've discovered something many people spend years searching for. Peace. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that changes your life overnight. The quiet kind. The kind that arrives when you stop performing. Stop comparing. Stop chasing. And finally allow yourself to simply exist. Maybe the world doesn't always understand that choice. Maybe it never will. But psychology suggests something interesting. The people who are most comfortable being alone are often the people who know themselves best. And knowing yourself may be one of the rarest forms of success in the modern world. So if you've ever felt guilty for enjoying your own company, for canceling plans and feeling relieved, for choosing a quiet evening over a crowded event, for finding happiness in ordinary moments, maybe there is nothing wrong with you. Maybe you aren't missing out. Maybe you've simply learned something that many people haven't yet. That a meaningful life isn't measured by how much noise surrounds you. It's measured by how much peace exists within you. And sometimes, the most important relationship you'll ever build is the one waiting for you in the silence. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more psychology that helps you understand yourself a little better. And tell me in the comments, do you recharge around people? Or do you recharge when the world finally becomes quiet?